WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. The FAA is investigating an unruly passenger incident on a Breeze Airways flight today. That flight diverted to Grand Junction, Colorado, after crew members and passengers worked to hold down the man.
That passenger was restrained twice, was able to break free, and then was swinging a skateboard, according to police. And according to the pilot, he was swinging a belt around. The plane was over southwestern Colorado when it made that U-turn and dropped from 34,000 feet and made a descent into Grand Junction instead of going to Los Angeles.
ABC's Sam Sweeney. The countdown is on for Friday's meeting between President Trump and Russia's Vladimir Putin in Alaska. Today, President Trump held a call with Ukraine's President Zelensky and European leaders. The president vowed there will be severe consequences if Putin does not agree to a ceasefire. Alaska's governor issuing a state disaster declaration for Juneau due to record floodwaters released by the Mendenhall Glacier that could cause flooding. This is ABC News. An American influencer who set out on a solo flight and fundraising mission for cancer research has been detained in the Chilean territory of Antarctica. 20-year-old Ethan Guo says he's been held since June. Authorities accuse Guo of landing his small plane illegally after providing false flight plan information to officials who opened an investigation. Guo, though, says he's been detained before and did everything right.
I've been detained in Myanmar. I've been detained in the U.S. Air Force Base. After a day, they let you go. They do a quick investigation. It's all good. But after I landed here, after an hour or two, after 2-3 hours, they came up to me and they were like, okay, follow me. You're arrested.
Guo says he's lost 20 pounds. The Israeli Hostage Center calling for a nationwide strike Sunday, pushing for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his hard-right coalition to end the war in Gaza and secure the release of all remaining Hamas-held hostages. I'm Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ziprecruiter.com/free. That's ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Grosvenor.
All right. Hey, folks, if it's Wednesday night, it is the Common Sense Conservatives right here on WSMN 1590 AM and 95.3 FM, joined by my co-host, Colonel Chris White in Central PA, and John Grosvenor, who has a little night fever there, Saturday night fever. Hey, what's up, John?
Yeah, what's going on there? I mean, it looks like nighttime. Is there like a storm overhead? I mean, it's August. It should be bright and sunny.
It's raining pretty good here in Nashua, New Hampshire.
Wow.
If anybody here in Nashua, New Hampshire hasn't stuck their head out the door yet, yep, it's raining. Bring your umbrella.
Yeah, be careful out there as well, for folks. Wow, it is dark.
Yeah, it's been building up for a while. We've had a lot of thunder and lightning, so we've had fair warning. I managed to get a spot right out here in front by the studio this time too.
That's good. So
what an amazing achievement, because it's hard to do usually this time of day.
Oh, well, you won't get as wet running out of there, hopefully. Colonel, when do you go off and off to the Wild Blue Yonder overseas and cover the Women's Rugby World Cup? Is that what it is?
It is indeed. I'm leaving Sunday, and I'll be heading out Sunday. So, yep.
Excellent. So here's a story I want to lead with. This is kind of funny. This is a Fox headline, by the way. First Lady Melania Trump puts Hunter Biden on $1 billion notice over false defamatory Epstein comments. And it says exclusive. First Lady Melania Trump is putting Hunter Biden on a $1 billion notice over what she claims are false, defamatory, disparaging, and inflammatory statements, end quote, made about her, demanding he immediately remove and retract the content and issue an apology or face legal action, Fox News Digital has reported. I guess Hunter Biden is going after the first lady, alleging that she has ties and the Trump family has ties with Epstein and all this stuff. And of course, he can't produce any documentation like he says he does. Says that he has.
Can you imagine being insulted by Hunter Biden? That's like, that's like a mosquito landing on the back of an elephant. How insignificant is he?
Right. Yeah, it's just so funny. It's like you got out of trouble because your daddy had to pardon you, basically. And now you're going to sit here and throw stones at Melania Trump, of all people, somebody who is beyond all of the other nonsense that maybe her husband maybe really included it. She has nothing to do with it. I mean, where are you coming from here, my friend?
Yeah, Hunter Biden is really a disaster of all sorts. I mean, I can't blame his mother because his father killed her. I mean, she died in a traffic accident. Sorry.
Right. Oh, according to Tulsi Gabbard, Clapper allegedly pushed to compromise normal steps to rush 2017 ICA despite concerns from NSA director. Former director of national intelligence James Clapper allegedly directed officials to, quote, compromise normal procedures to rush politicized 2017 intelligence community assessment, despite concerns from then director of National Security Agency Mike Rogers, who allegedly said his team did not have enough time to review the intelligence to be absolutely confident that Russia was involved in the 2016 election. It seems to me that some of this stuff with regards to the Russiagate has been just either made up or exaggerated the influence that the Russians actually had during the 2016 election.
Well, it was all fabricated. The intelligence community assessment across the board and a coordinated intelligence article for the front office, the executive office, concluded that there was no Russian interference, and what little information they found showed it was negligible. As I've said from the beginning, to the 5,000 suckers who read, actually looked at and saw the couple hundred adverts run by Russian intelligence services, if that's what got you to vote for a person election, you shouldn't be allowed to vote if you're that stupid.
Right.
Yeah, intelligence quota might be nice, but they don't require one.
That's for sure, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So what are your guys' thoughts about President Trump and the federal government taking over the DC policing or the police department?
Long overdue. This is about time. And I'm sick of hearing the lying leftists and Democrats distort things in media. It's autocratic. It's an unlawful takeover. It's unconstitutional. No, it's not. The District of Columbia is federal territory under the control of the executive and the legislative branches. That's how it works. The land was granted by Maryland and Virginia reneged. They didn't give up their land.
No, they didn't. They got it back.
Indian givers, just like we gave land to Indians and then took it back from them. Indian givers. Yeah, that's a slight against white folks, by the way.
Chris,
for those
negative stereoptypes.
Right.
Well, people think that's an insult to Native Americans. It's an insult to the people who run the country. They abrogated the treaties. We made agreement with the Native Americans. We broke it as a nation, not we personally, but as a nation. And that term Indian giver is about the people who take back what they provided. So but that's exactly what the deal here is. The District of Columbia is federal land. It's federal territory, and it was under complete federal control until the early 1970s when they foolishly passed the DC Home Rule law, which gives limited autonomy to the district. And the mayor of that district should be locked up and removed from office. She has no business in office. She's a political operative, not a mayor, and she's led disastrous reign, despite the fact I heard Laura Ingraham say that this has been the best mayor. Look, the bar was so low that the local dog catcher could be a better mayor of DC. I mean, we're comparing mayoralships of DC to Marion Barry. Let's keep that in mind.
Right, Marion Barry, who mind you, was caught in smoking crack while mayor, buying crack, smoking crack, and then was reelected some years later to city council, and then he's passed away now, but was a city councilman, a respected city councilman and a city elder. I mean, come on now, your mayor and your elected elder, if you will, is a crackhead. Come on now.
That's beyond a joke. And the District of Columbia passed local ordinances that undermine the rule of law, handicap law enforcement, and subject law enforcement officers who are doing their jobs, which should give them qualified immunity, to civil lawsuits and destruction of their lives. As a consequence, the district authorized over 4,000 peace officers that can barely maintain a force a little over 3,000 because people don't want to work for the DC Metro Police because their lives could be destroyed for simply doing their job because of false racist allegations, false excessive force allegations. The District of Columbia is federal land. All these screaming harpies need to shut up and read the law, learn the Constitution, learn what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. This is why we created District of Columbia and why the capital didn't stay in Philadelphia. The nation's capital was in Philadelphia under the Articles of Confederation. We moved it to land donated by Maryland and the Indian-giving Virginia legislature, and we left it simply in the Maryland side. So they can shut up. And Trump is long overdue. He should have done this a long time ago. And the nonsense, Todd, about, what's next? Then he'll take over Birmingham and LA and Seattle. Under what authority? He has no authority to do that. He didn't take over Los Angeles. He did not do it. He simply exercised his legal constitutional role under the Constitution in Los Angeles, which should have been done in 2020 in Minneapolis and many other places. He could do this in D.C. because D.C. belongs to the feds. Right. Get over yourselves. You think that this is why they took civics out of the curriculum in junior high school, so that Americans would be stupid and not understand how the government works. But we're not all stupid. Some of us managed to get to public school before you clowns got in charge of our curriculums and deprived our offspring of a proper education. Right. Fortunately, some of us teach our kids right from wrong. And you leftists, your day is ending soon.
We about a month or two ago, we had interviewed a gentleman by the name of Adam Swart, who happens to be the founder and CEO of Crowds on Demand. You remember that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good interview.
He was recently on Fox News, I believe, talking about how booming his business is right now because they're looking for warm bodies to be in DC to oppose all these Trump activities and stuff. And so they talk about the outrage here of citizens and how bad
manufactured
they'll put people out of anywhere in the country and put them in DC and say this poor DC resident is just suffering. It's lies. It's all saccharine and it's bullshit.
Yeah, what part of the city do you live? Just give me the street. Just give me the street you live on. Don't give me your address. Main Street? Yeah, no, you don't.
So did you notice the protest in the District of Columbia when they're standing, "This is our town, Trump, it's not for you," whatever, some stupid song they made up. These people have, gosh, man, no wonder I use artificial intelligence to make songs.
The generation is long gone, folks.
Yeah, I know. They all think that they're little Joan Baez's. They're not.
No.
But did you notice the racial makeup of it? It was 1,000% old, annoying, rich, privileged, white turds. That's what it was. 100%. District of Columbia used to be 87% black. Now it's only 42% black because of the gentrification and all the white folks moving in because all the government money that's been there for the last few decades.
Oh, exactly.
But the district is plurality black, 42%, and not one black person was present for that. Not one black person. Unbelievable. Of course, the area where that protest took place, there's fewer black folks because they're all concentrated on the eastern side and the southeastern side of the district, where all the crappy houses and poor neighborhoods are.
These are the people that live in Colorama or Georgetown and that area.
Exactly. DuPont Circle. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Very
stay away, Trump. Shut up.
Where the average bank account is probably somewhere around $12 to $13 million.
I have no idea, but that's about as high as their IQ is. So I suppose it makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You see some of those houses. It's like they're not paupers for sure. That goes without saying.
These people are so pathetic. I mean, first off, what are they doing out at that time of day? It's a work day. It's a work day. Are you allergic to work? Good Lord.
Well, everybody else that they're protesting for on their behalf works for them. It's one of their seedy underbelly.
It's their serfs who are busy.
Right. Yeah.
That reminds me of The Fifth Element when Gary Oldham's sitting in the office and he's chaos creates construction and jobs. And so he knocks over the glass and a little machine comes out and sweeps it all up.
Right. Yeah. I love it. Chaos. Gary, he's a heck of an actor. By the way.
Yes. And then he swallows the cherry or whatever.
Yeah. That movie is. The characters on that movie are over the top, and I love it.
They are. It's a Lost in Paradise. Ruby Rod.
Ruby Rod. He's screaming at the camera.
Anyway, we digress. We were talking about District of Columbia.
Sorry.
Yes, it's long overdue. This should have been done in the first term when this is going on. Look, here's the DC Metropolitan Police and the DC political authorities must be taking their lessons in governance from the ANC in South Africa, the African National Congress, and the South African Police Service, because they're doctoring crime statistics. They got an official who's been suspended. He was caught doing it. We know they're doing it. And like I said, in South Africa, I've got the police report from a farm murder, which is listed as a house robbery to cover up the fact there are farm murders, because they're trying to disavow knowledge of it. They're covering it up. DC's crime rate is down. No, it's not. No, it's not. That's utter nonsense. Also, the police reform laws, which meant the institution or instantiation of lawlessness, because the police can't do their job, have undermined and kneecapped law enforcement in the district. These young kids running around destroying things, breaking in stores, nothing happens to them. They need to be taken out and horsewhipped, publicly embarrassed, then put into a prison, not a juvenile center, and then maybe they'll grow up.
Oh, I agree with you. Yeah, a lady was shot today at 11 a.m. At the 3300 block of 15th Street Northeast, in broad daylight in a neighborhood in D.C. Yeah. She was on her way to work, I imagine, or somewhere, or out to do something, but shot middle of the day. No problem. People have no problem going to your neighborhood and shooting you. You're going to tell me your city is safe? I don't think so.
I have to tell you that I used to drive into the district every day because I worked at the Pentagon, and oftentimes briefed at the Eisenhower office building. Briefed the National Security Council, also the Rayburn building, and gone into Congress. So I've been through there a lot, and I've been in DC hundreds of times. And I have to say that clearly 25 to 40% of the times I've been in DC, I've had to, be alert as police are responding to a call.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
25 to 40% of the time, police are barreling down the road responding to a shooting or a domestic violence or an assault or a home invasion or something like that. It's insane. And I'm not talking about in the mall area and the White House. I'm talking about in the residential areas of DC.
Right. Yeah. I tell you, many times I've been there, late at night, just listen for those sirens. And you can hear
during the day, man.
Late at night though, it's even more so. Just screaming all throughout that city.
It's crazy.
24/7.
Yep, and the cops are way understrength and undermanned for a district. And quite frankly, Trump is right. It's an embarrassment. This should be the showcase of our nation, our national capital. Instead, it's become an embarrassment of drugs, store break-ins, home invasions, rapes, robberies, and total lawlessness, total chaos. And Bowser, she needs to be removed. That woman has no business in governance.
Right. I used to go to Draper's Cigar Shop, which is right near the White House now. Actually, it's right across from the Treasury Building now. But they used to be around the corner for many, many years. I used to go around there, and there was a DC police sergeant. He was in there probably 2 or 3 times a week or whatever. And we just have chit chats. And like, he would, when I first got to know him, he's like, do you live here or are you visiting or whatever? And I said, no, I live here. He's like, okay, I just want to let you know. He's like, don't venture like 2 more blocks that way and 1 block that way. He's like, it's this. And he gave me all the rundown of what goes on in these areas.
Yeah, no, it can be quite dangerous. It's embarrassing. It's sad. It's one reason why I tell people in Philadelphia, I used to go to rugby frequently down there in Chester on the southeast side of Philadelphia. You take your life in your hands down there, man, because you have to drive through incredibly dangerous neighborhoods. The people who live there don't want to live there. It's so dangerous. And, Larry Krasner, that clown, I caught him the other day talking about the nonsense. He's running his mouth about Trump and DC. He needs to shut up. That's a Soros-funded district attorney who lets rapists and murderers out with no bail. They go right back in the same neighborhoods where they're accused of the crime and commit similar crimes on the same day they've been released over and over again. And his guy is still the district attorney in Philadelphia. It's insane.
Right. Well, switching cities. New York City, Zohran Mamdani.
Zoolander.
Zoolander. He went over to Staten Island to do an anti-Trump rally, and apparently Staten Islanders told him to go back where you come from. We don't want you here.
Staten Island
is Trump country.
Yeah, Staten Island is not Democratic territory. That's for sure. Big mistake. Working class people, not the place that they're going to go. Yeah, Zoolander. This guy he's got nothing. So distracting from his fascist, leftist, communist, Islamic, fascist promotion agenda, he is now attacking Trump. Trump has nothing to do with this. The guy left New York City. Get over it, guys. He took his billions away.
Right. Well, that's the problem. We can't tax his billions now. He's got them in Florida, tucked away safely, right?
Well, you don't have to worry about taxing his billions, because you know who's taxing his billions? Judges taking away $500 million for a bond. Those clowns. Did he ever get his money back? I wonder.
Right. But speaking of Mamdani, there's another headline on Fox. City-owned Missouri grocery store closes as Mamdani or Zoolander campaigns for some in New York. And basically, the state has pushed millions of dollars to these things, and they're still going under because the model doesn't work. And Mom Donnie wants to have these in New York City, funded by you, the taxpayers, by the way.
What are you going to say about this stuff? The stupidity is off the charts. But it's what we've allowed to happen. Somehow Americans took their eye off the ball, and we let this country be taken over by a small number of absolute backcrap crazy lunatics at every level. And now we just have to beat them back. We have to push them back and bring reason and common sense back to the polity. And people need to stop saying, well, I don't care about politics. It doesn't matter if you care. Politics comes for you whether you like it or not. You need to be engaged.
It comes for you. Yeah. Just because you don't take an interest in it doesn't mean it won't take an interest in you and your pocketbook, your bank account, and generations to come, ladies and gentlemen.
That's 100% correct. And that's the problem. I think a lot of people, they don't like it because it seems just something unpleasant. Well, that's fine. I appreciate it's unpleasant. But the bottom line here, ladies and gentlemen, is that whether you like it or not, it's coming for you, and you need to be engaged or at least informed. I mean, it's when I came back from, and I've told this story before, when I came back from Africa after 9/11 after Thanksgiving in 2001, and I was at an Arby's, it was an Arby's down in Frederick, Maryland, and people were talking about, the Supreme Court stole the election. I'm like, huh? What are you talking about? What election? Last year, 2000? Yeah, they stole the election and gave it to Bush. I said, no, they didn't. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
No, they didn't. I said, what did the Supreme Court do? They said, well, they ordered Trump the winner. No, they didn't. The Supreme Court directed that the Florida Supreme Court, which was rogue and violating Florida's Constitution, which is ironic because their role is to uphold the Constitution. The Constitution required that the vote be certified. They refused to allow it to be certified. The Supreme Court stepped in and forced them to certify it by a certain date. Right. That's what happened. And Al Gore couldn't throw out the military absentee ballots, which he was desperately trying to do.
Yes, he was.
To win the election. It was over 1,800 military absentee ballots trying to steal our votes from us. And I was one of those people from overseas, but I didn't vote in Florida. I voted in Ohio. So that, of course, that's what happened there. But and then you hear this, well, but Al Gore won. He won more votes. I'm like, what does that have to do with the price of tea in China?
Right.
Nothing. The number of votes you get doesn't matter, except in the state that you're voting in, the sovereign state. And with the exception of Maine and Nebraska, which have a silly system for dividing electoral votes,
right? Yeah,
it's first past the post. It's first past the post. So, it doesn't matter. And I found it shocking how woefully ignorant or how completely ignorant Americans were of the Electoral College and of our system. And then because they're ignorant, they criticize it. Oh, this is terrible. This isn't right. No, it is right. It serves a purpose. Without it, there would not be a republic. We would not have had a country if smaller states weren't assured that they would be treated exactly the same as every other state. Right. So Wyoming with 500,000 people is just as important as California with 38 million people, just as important in the Senate. The people are represented in the House, and there you're represented by population proportion, according to, little lines drawn here and there by Democrats and Republicans that are gerrymandered.
And that's how you get presidents and vice presidents going to smaller states that probably would never receive any attention, otherwise. Think about emergency funding and things like that. Oh, if something happens in a small part of the country that doesn't matter, I'm not going to spend any money there. But guess what? They have a lot of votes. I'm going to show up and make sure that they get all they need for sure. That's how they pay attention to you.
Well, I have to tell you, Jason Aldean had a great song, and it applies to politics too. Try that in a small town.
Right. Absolutely. So I want to get your assessment. Friday, there's going to be a summit in Anchorage, alleged summit with Putin and Trump. What are your thoughts? What do you think is going to come out of this summit? Are we going to get anything out of Putin, or is this going to be like a wash?
I don't think we'll get anything out of Putin. I'd be surprised if we did. I don't know why Putin wants this. He asked for the summit, according to the White House, and I'll accept that he wants it. But I think Putin is under a lot of pressure here. I'm not sure what Trump's got left up his sleeve to stop Putin, but Trump has had enough of Putin. And Trump is not said he's going to expect anything of this, but I get the feeling that if he doesn't get a ceasefire out of this, then Trump is going to bring maximum pressure, whatever that might be, against the Russian Federation. Look, Putin, I don't know what his deal is. He's gotten what he wanted. When this thing started, people asked me the night, remember I was at CPAC, I'd just gone down there. Then John came down. He was already in Florida, but he came by a little bit later. And I was down there, and when the attack occurred, when they crossed the border, that night's when I arrived, and I got to my hotel room after they finally found the night security guy who was sleeping, who had the master key because the key machine was broken. He let me in my room, and I got in. And the thing took place, and people like, how long is this going to last? A couple months? I'm like, a couple months? No, this is 3 to 5 years minimum. 3 to 5 years. And here we are, 3.5 years later, still going on. And the thing is, well, why did Putin do this? I said, well, as far as I'm concerned, I think his strategic objectives are to basically annex the eastern third of Ukraine up to the Dnieper River. And he doesn't have that territory yet. I think that's why the war has continued. But that would put him on the doorstep of Kiev, and the Ukrainians are never going to go for that. So I suspect that if people could get rid of Zelensky and his corrupt government and overthrow them or remove them from office in Ukraine, they would agree to a peace agreement to let the Russians keep the Donetsk and Luhansk and the Crimea, which is gone forever. Excuse me, I was coughing there. Yeah. So the thing is that what people pay no attention to, and I'm not saying it's right. I'm not backing Russia here at all. But the areas that the Russians took over were overwhelming ethnic Russian. And if they'd had a plebiscite in those areas, like they did, in the Saarland for Germany after the Second World War, then these territories likely would have voted to join Russia, most likely. And so, I don't understand, unless there's valuable minerals there or it's a natural defense barrier, which it really isn't because it's plains for the most part, why the Ukrainians are so demonically holding on to this at the loss of 1 million lives. They don't seem to care, the politicians, how many Ukrainians and Russians they can get killed. They'll just keep going until there's nobody left.
They did want to give up, but from my understanding, I've seen some reports that Putin had broke through Ukraine's front lines, and now Ukraine, or how you say it, Zelensky,
Zelensky.
Zelensky. He's entertaining the thought about giving up the Donbas region to Russia now. I think he's realizing he's lost, and so it's to my understanding he's thinking about ceding that over to Russia, and so I'm expecting maybe in these talks it's going to be more or less about going back to what Trump was previously proposing about giving Ukraine certain access to the waters and things like that, certain rights.
Well, the thing is, that may be the case, but publicly what they're saying is the press is reporting that he's convinced Trump not to negotiate any territory away in this meeting. Trump says that wasn't his plan, but Trump says things aren't his plan. Next thing you know, he has a peace agreement all over the world.
Right. Come out, he'll be saying, "Nah, this is the best one ever. It's the best." The Ukraine will agree with it. It's over.
He likes to throw that. We were going to talk about that, but it came
Nobel
up.
Peace Prize is mine. I'm wrapping it up.
Picking up on my way home.
But seriously, how many conflicts does Trump have to end before he gets a Nobel Peace Prize? I mean, maybe he should just weigh in and end the conflict in Myanmar. He's ended conflicts all over the world.
Sure.
He ended the war in Iraq. He ended the war in Afghanistan. He's negotiated peace in the Middle East, which was destroyed by Biden. He ended the conflict in the Congo. I don't know that's going to keep. And he's now ended. He's put a peace settlement in the Caucasus between bitter rivals. I mean, what does this guy have to do? I mean, does he have to, like when the Alpha Centaurians come or when Mars attacks, does he have to stop the Martians? Come on.
Well, what he could do is simply just every day come out and be like, hold up a piece of paper. I've ended the conflict in Myanmar. It's over. I signed it. And like everybody there look at each other and be like, all right, I guess we have to go home now. It's over. Trump said, and they just leave and go home. Right. He would get no credit for it.
Look, I want to see him negotiate peace with Mars. I mean, because I don't want the imagery of Sarah Jessica Parker's head on a chihuahua really is stuck in me forever, So I'd really like to see Trump negotiate, peace with the Martians. That'd be pretty cool.
I think he could, right? But President Trump did say that Putin would suffer very severe consequences if Russia doesn't agree to end the war in Ukraine. That's kind of that's going in pretty strong right there. I mean, what are the severe consequences? Are we talking about military action or just more economic sanctions or you're a bad guy, Putin, something like that, world tour?
Trump's method of operations usually sanctions.
Yeah.
Tariffs and sanctions.
Tariffs, sanctions. Yeah. I mean, but he's also had the European allies, if you will, to think about, that have already spoken with Trump about what they're expecting, and apparently they're in agreement before he's going in there, according to the White House.
Yeah, I was gonna say Putin does have a whole lot of friends in Europe right now, so
right,
a lot of the world's against him for what he's been doing.
Yep. But like Germany, apparently the chancellor spoke with Trump and said basically, hey, don't negotiate X, Y, and Z away. And Trump's like, I'm right there with you. Not going to happen. So
I think Pablo Charlie's got a good point here. He said Russia will not give up nor Luhansk and Donetsk. They're already integrated as republics, but then Russian Federation richest in minerals. I think that's an issue within itself. And he says sanctions will do nothing. And I'm sure it won't. I mean, Putin's got a lot of support from the polarized opposition of the, of the axis here with Iran and China, and I guess China and Russia can become good buddies and stuff,
Right.
Well,
through all that's been going on.
the sanctions aren't going to do anything for the very reason I said before the conflict even started. 2 months before they launched the conflict, or a little over about 6 weeks before, Putin went to China and Xi agreed to buy lumber and oil, coal, iron, steel, all kinds of commodities from the Russians and give them hard currency in return. So they've been skirting the sanctions from the very beginning. It doesn't matter what steps people have taken. As long as the Chinese communists continue to support Russia tacitly by allowing this nonsense continue, they are not going to succumb. It's as simple as that.
Of course, that's providing China can even sustain itself. From my understanding, they've had a lot of economic issues and problems.
China does have a lot of problems, and I've been talking about this for years. For years, been talking about China is like going to take over. Remember the story: China will surpass the United States economy in year 2010, 2015, 2020, 2022, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now they're saying 2040. It may very well happen one day, but when you have 3 times as many people, or 5 times as many people as we have, you ought to have an economy larger than ours. But if you go on a per capita basis, the Chinese are basically paupers compared to us. The bottom line here is that they've had a lot of trouble, and it's a consequence of the rapid growth of their economy. In order to keep the economy juiced for a number of years, the state had intervened and built apartment buildings and factories and roads that nobody uses. Nobody lives there. It's insane. The amount of concrete that China has put and turned in just a few short years exceeded all concrete production in the U.S. in the 20th century. It's insane. And a lot of this is unused infrastructure. If you go 50 miles in from the coast, there's not much to China. It's still the 13th century in many places. It really is. So they've got lots of problems with expectations from a rising middle class who expect to have health care and a good life and good working conditions and political voices and stuff like that. They've done massive ecological damage to their environment because they don't care about the environment. They claim they do. This is a country that builds 350 coal-fired power plants every year and then castigates the rest of the world, the West, for its pollution. They surpassed the United States as the world's largest producer over a decade ago, and now they're producing almost twice as much pollution as the United States. And there are no consequences for them, and they don't care. They don't care. It's about craving political power and domination. Now they have ignored the International Court of Justice ruling against them in the South China Seas, and they're asserting sovereignty in an area they have no sovereignty. And now they claim they chased away a U.S. ship from there just yesterday. Look, these people are bad actors, and people need to wake up to that. They need to wake up to that.
Yeah, what was that? The USS Higgins. Apparently, I think China was going after a Philippine Coast Guard ship or something, and we intervened.
Sorry, I missed that.
I said, what was it? The Chinese were going after a Philippine Coast Guard ship, and we were called to intervene, and so we did. And now they're claiming we were encroaching on their sovereign waters, which was international waters. And the U.S. was statement on it was, we will sell wherever we're legally allowed to sell within international law, and we were doing so. And it is our duty to come to the call of an ally that is being attacked or assaulted by an adversary.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the Chinese have this habit of asserting sovereignty over places they lack sovereignty. The Scarborough Shoal is what I'm talking about, and that's not their sovereign territory. That's in open international waters. They've fraudulently built military bases there. They've destroyed reefs to build these bases, and they are just bad actors. And it's time for someone to rein them in. They're really out of control.
From my understanding, they were sailing right off the coast of Hawaii not that long ago.
Well, you can sail off the coast of Hawaii. I mean, within reason, 12 nautical miles.
As long as it's international waters, they can. But I don't know if they're encroaching or not. I didn't get that. But I guess they were coming pretty close, so I don't think they were being threatening.
But coming that close is obviously very telling. To see at what point are we going to engage them or tell them they need to turn around and go back.
It could be they like to play those games. I remember when they first started building their military. By the way, it's outsourcing to China that's made them such a rich enough nation they could rebuild their military.
Sure.
And I remember in the 90s and stuff when they were getting these new warships and stuff. And from my understanding, they got some pretty interesting warships now.
Yeah, thank you, Walmart. Right?
Yeah, right.
Thank you,
Thank you, United States of America, for funding this. I mean, we all participated when we went shopping there. But as soon as they get this warship, man, the first thing they do, because they got a beef with Taiwan, they want it back. And that's the first thing they do is go float it in front of Taiwan, saying like, hey, look what we got. We're looking at you now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, look, there's bad actors, guys. They're just bad actors. They need to be reined in. They need to be taken care of. Simple as that. But, we've had successive administrations that have facilitated the Chinese communists, starting with the Clinton administration, sponsoring their entry into the World Trade Organization, one of the biggest political disasters in the modern history of the world. The Chinese have no business being an organization whose rules they violate on a daily basis. They're not interested in free trade. They are interested in mercantilism, and that's their system. And that's what they're using to amass wealth. And they use it to punish the world. Remember all of our pets they murdered when they sent their ethyl glycol poisoned pet food over here?
Right.
Yep.
Right.
How could I forget?
Yep. Well, that's just the first step, you know. And then of course they gave us their altered little virus that came over here. Now they got another one. Yeah. And by the way, you know, they lied about it, but Fauci has a crime to answer for on gain of function.
Right. And Fauci got a pardon, and it's like, Fauci, you can't say that you're innocent of something if you're gonna accept a pardon. You got essentially with the acceptance of a pardon comes to with an admission of guilt, even if you remain silent, right?
I don't know if that's true.
I mean, that's my thought on it.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Chris because I'm thinking if I was worked for the government and the president just said, "Here's a pardon just in case," I'd be like, hey, you know what? It's insurance.
Yeah,
just in case I made a mistake. I don't know what I may have done, but
I don't think accepting the pardon. First off, it's not a real pardon. The auto pen signed it, so that's going to be removed and revoked at some point. Once we get around to that,
it should be.
Once we get through these tariffs and get these countries lower their trade barriers, so we can lower them back down, I think we're going to get back to things like that. But Fauci needs to be pursued. And all these people, including Hillary Clinton, they think that they've outlived the statute of limitations. But racketeering doesn't have a statute of limitations, and this is a criminal enterprise. Obama, Clinton, Comey, Brennan, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Bruce Orr, all these people are involved in a vast racketeering conspiracy, and therefore, they're all still subject to prosecution. So get ready, folks. There's going to be some K Street lawyers making a lot of money.
Well, I would hope so, right?
Yeah, these people should be making a lot of money, these lawyers, because these people should be defending themselves because they're criminals.
That's a good point on the racketeering, man. RICO Act and all.
Yeah, absolutely. As I'm scrolling some of the headlines here, did you know we have a looming government shutdown on September 30th?
Yeah, they got to do another budget bill and extension,
right. Of course, they're not going to come back until after Labor Day. And then what are they going to do? What kind of budget is it going to be? Oh, we're going to get it through the holidays to like January 1st or something, 2nd. Right?
I honestly don't care. Shut the government down. I don't mind. You know what I mean? It's like, go ahead. We've done it before and we had a booming economy doing it. So, I mean, maybe it'll help.
Well, here's the thing. I'm a little confused. You have to color me confused here. The big, beautiful bill was supposed to be the budget for this coming year. So how are we running out of money? How do we not have an authorization? I'm confused by that. That's not the annual appropriations bill. Was it, or was it a separate piece of legislation that authorized spending? That should be in the appropriations bill. So I'm a little confused as to why we have to shut the government down. But quite frankly, aside from air traffic control, customs and immigration, border patrol, I really don't care.
I think what they're doing is they're breaking it up, aren't they? So they're budgeting for certain things that are expiring now, and then they got something else going to be expiring later where they need to budget some more. So instead of doing one big budget for the next year, they're doing it twice.
Yeah, that sounds like it. But I mean, I think we've been hoodwinked here. The whole idea behind passing they had to pass it by this date. He wanted by 4th of July.
Yeah.
One presumed that was to get a budget because this government is incapable of passing a budget. For 30 plus years, they can't pass a budget. We live on continuing resolutions.
They can't seem to balance a budget.
Not balance, pass a budget. We start every year with continuing resolutions.
Yeah,
it's embarrassing. When I was in Liberia in 2007, it took them 2 weeks past their deadline to pass their budget, and the U.S. government's criticized them like, "Hey guys, excuse me. We don't have a budget, but we're 9 months through the year and we have a continuing resolution. What are you picking on Liberians for?"
So the concept is if you're creating a budget, you're creating a balanced budget, right? You want to balance the books, get things sorted out. And what has it been? Almost 30 years.
It's been a long time. I don't disagree with you that the concept should be you'd want to have a balanced budget, but right now I'd be happy for a budget that starts on October 1st. That'd be good enough for me.
I think this is what led to the wild spending. You know, if they made a budget, they might have to stick to it. If they keep doing the resolutions, they're like, raise the debt ceiling, raise the debt ceiling. There's I don't know what you call it. They're screwing us all over. They're screwing over the whole country. They're screwing us all over. None of this makes sense to me. None of it. And the funny thing is, I remember George W. Bush standing at the podium wagging his finger at the American people in 2007 when we were facing that crisis on the housing market bubble bursting, and he's going, "Well, the American people have an obligation to pay their debts." You encouraged them to take the loans. They took the loans, and now they're screwed with the loans, and you're going to chastise them in front of God and everybody. Good job.
Of course, right?
100%. No, it's look. We get into subprime mortgage thing. That's an hour talk. I'd love to talk about that because it was falsely portrayed to the world, and they blame George
Right.
Bush. And ironically, that year when the subprime mortgage thing took effect in 2008, from January until September, capital gains coming into the Treasury were so high that even though 3 million jobs were evaporated from October through December and revenue to the federal government dropped significantly, it was still the single largest year in the history of the United States of personal income tax revenue coming into the Treasury that year.
Wow.
And that's after the Bush tax cuts. And then they tried to blame all that on Bush tax cuts. It had nothing to do with it. It had to do with the Congress illegitimately interfering in the housing market by financing and backing Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and then giving them a quasi-public-private charter. They gave them a charter. They have to answer to Congress. So they have to make loans to people who aren't eligible. And then they had to answer to shareholders. The only way to give a return to shareholders, continue to grow, because you want a stock to grow and grow your revenue, is to buy loans. So they bought up loans. Between those two quasi-federal parastatals, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, 2 out of every 3 home mortgages were in their hands. That is an unacceptable concentration of debt in the hands of 2 actors. And as a consequence of that, we had a marketplace that nearly collapsed because they were in trouble and they were bailed out because the implicit guarantee. That's why. See, here's the thing. And then I'll cover this very quickly. So the problem with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac is that they competed unfairly in the marketplace with businesses like Countrywide and Bank of America. All the people made home loans. When they would borrow money from the larger banks to put, or they borrow money or put bonds out there to raise money from investors, they would pay a quarter to half a point higher interest rates than Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Why? Because investors believed correctly that they were rock solid. Doesn't matter what happens. They don't even have to be run well. They will be backed. If they ever get in trouble, and this was the first time they got in trouble, if they ever get in trouble, the federal government will step in. And they did step in. And they made sure their money was protected. So they've always had an unfair advantage. So they can make loans and they can buy loans at a cheaper rate than all the commercial banks. That's unfair intrusion in the capital marketplace. And this isn't complicated, but it's too esoteric for most people to pay attention to. So the federal government created the circumstances that led to the subprime mortgage. And by the way, only 3% of the subprime mortgages, which are less than 5% of the total mortgage market, were the ones who were in trouble. And 3% of a 5% is what caused almost entire global financial meltdown. That's the problems that Congress creates. The Community Reinvestment Act, and then this chartering of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to give loans to people who don't qualify for loans. And then they had to be competitive for investors. So they bought them up, packaged them in these commercial-backed mortgage securities. And this is the problem. And that's it all spun from that. And no one wants to take responsibility for it, but the very people responsible for it is still there. Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, still in government, still there.
Absolutely.
The people that nearly collapsed the entire global financial system and they weakened America, unbelievably. And on top of that, quantitative easing, the printing of non-existent money.
Right. Well, you think about that, the actors that you just described are still there or just mentioned. They're still doing insider trading as well, becoming even wealthier millionaires on top of everything they already had beforehand.
Oh, that's a whole other kettle of fish, and you're spot on to mention.
You're saying the Stock Act didn't mean anything?
Nah.
Yeah,
not for Nancy anyway.
Trading on the Professional Knowledge Act passed in 2012, where they're supposed to make disclosures and stuff. The problem with it is that so you can't make trade deals based on your decision making and on legislation. However, it doesn't stop them from being joining these groups. These what do you call them? I can't think of the name of it now. But anyway, you got groups of investors and stuff like that. And they take a seat on the board and become advisors to these investor groups.
Sure.
So they're not directly investing their money, but they're advising how to invest the money. That's the same thing. But you know what? There's always a loophole.
Of course. Folks, you're listening to the Common Sense Conservatives. We're live every Wednesday night, 7 to 9 Eastern, right here on WSMN 1590 AM and 95.3 FM. And you can also check us out online at wsmn.live. We help bring you back from the inverted reality we are subject to every day. I'm Todd McKinley in Northeast Tennessee, Colonel Chris Wyatt in Central PA, and of course, John Grosvenor, always in the studio holding it down for us. Did you guys see that Benjamin Netanyahu spoke at the Newsmax's 4th annual Newsmax celebration in Jerusalem? And he said a quote. He said the barbarian. He said he will end the barbarians at the gate. All right, let's see. Yeah, it stands with.
Go ahead. I'm sorry,
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delivered a forceful and wide-ranging speech Wednesday at Newsmax's fourth annual celebration in Jerusalem, declaring that most Americans reject Hamas, the lies, and of course stand with Israel in its ongoing battle against what he called the barbarians at the gate. And I think he's spot on calling Hamas the barbarians at the gate. What do you guys think?
Well, is this where he announced that he's thinking about relocating Gazans to Sudan?
I don't know if it was that speech or not, but I think he's spot on in his
Yeah,
these are barbarians.
Look, something's got to give now. Israel through the years have made compromises. They give them the Gaza Strip. They've done a bunch of things to try to make compromise and pacify these circumstances, and all this comes around not being enough. And then they get blindsided and attacked. And it's not like these guys. It's not like Hamas attacked the military. They attack civilians, citizens, children, and stuff. They kill babies and rape women. They amputated parts off from people. Well, it's not like a graphic about, but you understand what I'm saying. They were disgusting. He's right. They're barbarians. I agree. They're barbarians. And something's got to give now. Enough is enough.
Right. I agree.
Well, I don't disagree. But Israel is getting a lot of bad press right now. And it's a concerted effort to make them look bad,
right?
But they're not helping themselves, and so I have to say that,
right? I could agree with you. So switching gears back to DC and their home rule here, a good friend of mine, White House Deputy Press Secretary Harrison Fields told Newsmax on Wednesday that President Donald Trump's efforts at reducing crime in the nation's capital is not an effort to end the District of Columbia's more than 50 years of self-government. And he says, quote, not all, Fields told the Record with Greta Van Susteren. And the sad reality is, if DC were a state, it would actually have the highest crime rate out of any of the states. You've seen a breakdown in leadership and total incompetence from a host of people here in the city that have allowed this city to kind of go downhill. And Harrison, I'm right there with you, buddy. I've done a lot of work with Harrison in the past. Good man. His mother was also an NYPD police officer, just so everybody knows, and was on duty on 9/11. So when Harrison, he's African-American as well, in case people don't know. So whenever he talks about this, he understands what the heck he's talking about. He knows the facts here. And if Harrison is saying it, I buy it for sure. Good man, and I 100% trust in this guy.
Oh, Mario Bow Wow Wowzer there. She's over there trying to talk about, Chris hit on it earlier. She's talking about, well, we're already reducing crime rates. Well, obviously not enough. And what are you comparing these crime rates to when you're saying 2021, 2022, and 2023? You're comparing them to 2020, right? When you allowed rioters to go rampant in the streets and did nothing about it but step back and play Black Lives Matter in the middle of the road.
Right.
You encouraged it. And now you want to say, well, we've done reductions, and people are still out there dying in droves.
Right. Well, it's reductions from that level of crime, right? We don't have rioters in the street right now. We could burn the whole place down if we wanted to. That's what they're saying, basically.
Yeah, I guess that's it. But yeah, they really acted nefariously, really, when you think about it. I mean, the DC police on January 6th requested for National Guard. That goes up to the chain, right? And we know that the Sergeant of Arms said that we need National Guard. So it goes to Mario Bowser. It goes to Pelosi, and Pelosi shuts down the Sergeant at Arms. And the National Guard was never requested. Right. Well, at the same time, they assured President Trump, we have it covered. We got enough law enforcement to cover it. We're fine. We don't need them. Yeah, so, they act nefariously and then turn around and try to play innocent. This is ridiculousness at its finest.
Oh, absolutely. Complicity.
Yeah, now, look, they set the conditions, and Trump administration allowed themselves to be, frog marched into it. They offered stuff, and they should have made a bigger play of that. Hey, look, we've offered troops after seeing people attacking the streets, and then they would have attacked Trump for having, been authoritarian. And then when January 6th unfolded, he could have said, see, I told you. But instead, he goes on to Twitter live to tell people to behave themselves and leave the Capitol building. Don't harass the police. And then Twitter deletes that, and the press failed to cover it. And then they claim he tried to lead an insurrection. Look, these people are just so obvious.
This was definitely Mockingbird media at its finest.
Of course. I agree with you.
No, these are evil people, and they just need to be dealt with. And that's the bottom line. They're criminals amongst them. They actually charge them with the crimes and convict them.
I wish they would. That's the issue, man, is we keep hearing about it. We keep hearing it dissected, and it always comes down, it's a complex issue, and there's always a balance between this and that. It's like, no, it's not that complex. Do your jobs, investigate it, and prosecute.
But always the investigation always comes with a, hey, donate to my campaign, donate to my PAC. And then, so some sound bites come out of some investigation, some hearing, some low-level lackey takes it, a shellacking, verbally. And that's pretty much it. They move on to the next thing.
Yeah. They grandstand. They're basically profiteering off it is what they're doing.
Right, of course. Yeah, it's all theater by and large.
Yeah.
By and large. A lot of theater. Oh,
Americans are waking up to it. It's just what are Americans doing about it?
Right.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, here's a quick headline for you. And I won't get into the thing. I just want to get your reaction here. This is Fox News again. Bill Clinton, quote, prime suspect in oversight probe in an Epstein case, GOP lawmakers say. And it says, hopefully we'll win that court battle with that subpoena and see President Clinton in October, Comer said. What are your thoughts just on that headline alone? I mean, is Bill Clinton ever going to see the inside of a courtroom or ever have to testify on his association with Jeffrey Epstein ever?
He'll plead the fifth.
It depends on...
No, it's never going to happen.
No, exactly. No. Another instance of like, hey, let's get our hopes up. Somebody's going to fundraise off of this one more time. It's the Epstein, it's like the bait and switch. It's like, oh, there's a list. There's no list. Oh, wait a minute. There's a list. Fundraise off of it. No list. Come on now. There's nothing going to come of this.
Yeah, man, they're dangling the carrot, the proverbial carrot in front of the horse.
Very briefly, but I flew on his plane 37 times, but I went to his island 16 times, but I never really knew him. Right?
I know. Disassociation, but I was there.
But did you know all the women running around? Oh, the young women. No, they were women of college age. They were on scholarship. Something like that.
Were those interns?
Yeah, they were on scholarship and they were earning their money, doing good, righteous things. That's my Bill Clinton. All right.
That's not bad.
Working for the foundation. Working for the foundation.
Don't take them to Haiti. Those people hate the Clintons.
Yeah, all right. I mean, how many millions did they pocket off of that scam?
I have no idea. I just know that when you mention them in the same breath, Haitians get very angry.
No,
wasn't the Clinton Foundation that left them twisting in the wind or something?
Oh, yes.
Correct.
And they pocketed millions off of that one. Yeah,
they use a natural disaster to make money off of themselves.
Like Democrats.
Never let a good disaster or crisis go to waste, right?
Yeah,
Rahm Emanuel, right? Never let a crisis go to waste.
And if you can't find a good disaster or crisis, by all means, create one.
Oh, they do. They do. Juicy Smollett, speaking of Chicago, create something, create outrage. You know what I mean? People will believe the most outrageous things. 2 Alabama rednecks come up wearing MAGA hats, waiting in an alley near a subway on the off chance you're going to come by so they can assault you at almost 2 o'clock in the morning. That makes sense.
When it's
somebody hung a noose
10 degrees outside, 10 degrees
outside. Yeah, they
outside.
had that noose ready to go. This is Trump country. No, this is pretty much Democrat country and has been for more than a century, guys.
It's strange to think the state of one of the original Republicans, Abraham Lincoln, right?
Right. Well, yeah, it's from the state, but he wasn't out of Chicago necessarily.
No, he's from
he was born in
Illinois.
Kentucky. He was born in Kentucky, though.
Yeah, but he
grew up in Southern Illinois,
Springfield area.
Yeah.
That's kind of where his claim to fame came from, is Springfield, not Chicago for sure. Oh, God, that's where the Daily family held control and sway there for decades. Yeah, father and son was in power as mayor. I think total 60 some years out of 100, something like that. Maybe more. I can't remember. Quite a bit.
You got a history to tell?
What's that?
I say, have you got a history to tell us?
No. I'm just saying how corrupt they are. The whole family. Yeah. I just a thought. All right. Well, so
about 5 more minutes or so before we hit the top of the hour.
No, about 5 minutes. Yeah, and another Colonel, he broke down what we can expect out of the this summit that we have coming up on Friday with Putin and Trump in Anchorage. Hoping next week, if you are able to join us, I'd love to get your thoughts on what comes out of that. If anything at all, a good breakdown.
Well, it should be fascinating to say the least. And as far as next week, I won't be 6 hours; it'll be 5 hours. So that's a little little less punishing. So the 7 will be midnight. So I'll be able to join at midnight. And I'll certainly be able to do the first hour without too much trouble. But that 6-hour difference is a tough one. That's 1 a.m. It goes to 3 a.m. But yeah, so look, I mean, I don't expect a whole lot to come out of this. And it doesn't matter what comes out of it. The Democrats will attack it and make false claims about the whole thing. So, I mean, it's just that's the truth. These guys they're never letting go. They just constantly come up with nonsense, and it makes no sense whatsoever. But they do it anyway. That's just who they are.
Right.
That's what they're all about. And Bowser, acted like she was going to be an adult. This is an example here with the Trump asserting authority over the security of D.C. And now she's backed out of it. She's turned around. She's trying to play both sides.
Of course.
And she's actually one of the more rational Democrats.
There's a thing.
Rational.
I didn't say rational. I said more rational.
I got you.
It's a degree there. It's not guaranteed. So yeah, look, I mean, it's just, let's see what happens. I personally, I don't agree with the idea of doing this at Elmendorf Air Force Base. I would have done it at a national park or, somewhere like Prudhoe Bay, somewhere like that.
Right.
Do it out, in a beautiful scenic backdrop instead of at an air base. I don't know why they're doing it there. I guess for convenience. But,
right. It'd be like, Vladimir, look at all this. You sold it to us for $7 million. Thanks, buddy.
So wait till we see the uninformed, idiotic journalist, so-called journalist in today modern era, reporting for the Washington Compost, New York Slimes, or whatever these outlets.
Right.
Wait till we see them comment and say that, how come the Americans didn't arrest Vladimir Putin? There's an arrest warrant for him. And I'll stop that right now because we're not signatories to the International Criminal Court. And we have no obligation to arrest anyone. And we have no right to arrest anyone.
No, right. Well, he's also a head of state, right? He's here on a diplomatic mission. He's not here to be arrested. Sorry.
Correct. That violates the tenets of the Vienna Conventions. And, it's so, this whole thing about Putin going to South Africa a couple of years ago when I was there for the BRICS summit, he should have gone. He didn't go, but he should have gone. The South Africans are busy giving us the thumb the rest of the time. They might as well give everybody the thumb on this and not arrest them. They didn't arrest Omar Bashir. He was wanted by the ICC, had a warrant out for genocide. Anyway, that's what they're going to say. They're going to try to say that we should have done something to arrest him, whatever. But it doesn't matter. The war isn't simply because of Vladimir Putin. It's going to take more than getting rid of Vladimir Putin for this war to end. Maybe it'd be that simple, but I think there's too many people with a vested interest here. And if Vladimir Putin, if his plane crashed or something like that, or he was gone, or he had a heart attack, or he fell off his horse, trying to strut around, then maybe it could end. But there'll be a power struggle inside the Kremlin to see who gets to the top. And he's done a good job eliminating his rivals or making them neutered. So I really don't know who would rise.
Right. Yeah. Well, what strongman is going to take his place? They're going to have to be more heavy-handed than him to gain power to keep it. I mean, where do you go from there? And then the destructive nature of that to the people of Russia, and then of course the surrounding neighbors, Ukraine, etc. What happens?
Well, I think the surrounding states will be okay. But I think one of the smartest, the coolest things here is Trump. He encroached on Putin's backyard by negotiating a peace settlement in the Caucasus, and that's gonna
right.
That made Putin look very bad, and he's probably not happy about that. That's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. Yep.
Yes, that is very funny, and like all sides are like, Trump did a great job. They're applauding him. Like, I love it. And Vladimir Putin's like, I must go speak with him in Anchorage, Alaska. And then I think it was after that Putin called for the meeting. Did he not?
I believe it was after the big announcement of the peace negotiations, and suddenly he wants to talk.
I screwed this one up.
Yeah, well, I mean, they don't want peace there. That's why they would never be able to negotiate it. So Trump swooping in from the outside and working a deal out, whether it holds or not is another story, but working a deal out in what is the Russian sphere of influence is probably not making him happy. And we'll see what happens going there. There's a message I missed earlier from Courtney saying that Barney Frank played a big role in the financial crisis. Yeah, no, he's right. Barney Frank is very guilty in all that. Another slimy member of Congress. I'm glad to see the backside of him. No pun intended.
Didn't he have like a little Barney Frank?
I'm not going to make fun of his speech impediment.
I know. I
will make fun of his politics.
I'm imitating a little bit. I'm sorry.
It was actually pretty good.
We'll be right back after this break, but stick around, folks.
WSMN 1590. WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. On a virtual call ahead of Friday summit between the U.S. and Russia in Alaska, Ukrainian President Zelensky warning President Trump that Russian President Putin is, quote, bluffing about being open to peace. ABC News contributor and retired General Doug Lute.
This is not about land. This is not about marginal gains on the battlefield. This is about Putin's objective to control Ukraine in a very fundamental way, to make Ukraine subservient to the Kremlin.
Israeli forces have approved a new ramped-up attack plan in Gaza, increased operations around Gaza City. A flight from Norfolk, Virginia to Los Angeles diverted, pilots declaring an emergency. Breeze Airways says an intoxicated passenger was yelling racial slurs at flight attendants, waved around a skateboard that passenger removed when they landed in Grand Junction, Colorado. 12 people taken to the hospital, one with life-threatening injuries after a school bus rolled over near Sandy Creek, Texas this afternoon. This is ABC News. The governor of New Mexico declaring a state of emergency in response to violent crime and drug trafficking in the state. A Royal Caribbean cruise ship is changing its itinerary to skip Bermuda to avoid Tropical Storm Erin. A new poll finds attitudes towards alcohol are shifting.
A quarter of all those polled by Gallup recently said they had consumed either beer, wine, or spirits in the past 24 hours, a record low in the annual survey about Americans and alcohol. A little over 50% of adults say they do drink, but that same amount, a little over half, say they think even moderate alcohol consumption can be a health hazard. Earlier this year, outgoing Surgeon General Vivek Murthy recommended labels on booze bottles clearly outlining the link between alcohol and cancer.
6 decades after he disappeared, officials say the remains of a 25-year-old Antarctic researcher have been found. Dennis Bell was found in rocks exposed by a receding glacier on King George Island. That's where the British Antarctic Survey says Bell fell into a crevasse in July 1959. Dave Packer, ABC News.
What are you doing every day to support your liver? If you enjoy sweets, fast food, alcohol, or take any medications, that's a vital question to ask. Hi, I'm Sherry Torkas, pharmacist and health author. For over 30 years, I've helped people make informed decisions about their health, especially concerning prevention and long-term wellness. Supporting your liver isn't just a wellness trend, it's a daily essential. That's why I recommend Active Liver by New Nordic. It's made with plant-based ingredients like milk thistle, turmeric, and globe artichoke, herbs clinically studied for the protective and restorative effects on the liver. Active Liver blends traditional herbal wisdom with modern scientific research. Not all supplements are created equal. I trust Active Liver because it's backed by science, meets strict quality standards, and delivers true daily liver support.
Protect your liver and give it the support that it deserves by making Active Liver from New Nordic part of your daily wellness routine. Find Active Liver in stores at your local CVS, Meijer Grocery, or online at Amazon or newnordicusa.com.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago, servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work or restorative services, each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument, memorials of distinction for people who care.
All right, go see Roger over there. I want to stop in there at some point. John, I think you should go over there and take a picture with Roger. What do you think?
I like that. I mean, anything's possible. I suppose I could go over there and take a picture with Roger if you really want.
Anything's possible. Yeah.
I mean, I had thought about going over to see Roger, but hey,
you may need a headstone at some point down the road. Just get an idea.
At some point, hopefully from a very, very distant future. Yeah, I'll probably be needing one.
Absolutely, that's a great commercial. I love the voice. Perfect. Yeah.
It's well worded, the way they word it.
Oh, it is. And then the voice is like, there you go. That's a good commercial, my friend.
Wilbur Brimley or
Wilford Brimley. That's not
Wilford.
Wilford
Yeah,
Brimley.
Wilford Brimley sounded voice. Hey, I
That's
remember
not-
the
that's
voice. I
not
remember the
Wilford
face. I
Brimley.
couldn't remember the name so well.
He's selling the oatmeal now,
Huh?
or diabetes medication over here.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Is Wilford Brimley still around?
No, he's gone. He passed a few years ago, I think it was. Hey, I got he got that walrus mustache. He was a heck of an actor though. He was weirdly an A-lister. It's like I don't know. It's kind of weird, right? You think A-listers now like it's all this Cary Grant looking, it's like Brad Pitt and all that, but yeah, everybody knew who he was, right? I mean, I don't know.
Wilford Brimley was born September 27th, 1934. He passed in Salt Lake City, Utah. He passed away August 1st, 2020 in St. George, Utah.
Oh, wow. Sad. Absolutely. Yeah. So Kansas City mayor, who's African-American, claims that Trump, this is according to Fox News, is targeting cities with black leaders in crime crackdown. And I'm like, I think he's cracking down on crime, not cities that are, led by African-Americans. I'm sorry, Kansas City mayor.
Okay.
You are out of your depth.
So which cities has Trump gone into? Let's see. There's District of Columbia and
Has
the
every
District of
right
Columbia and the District of Columbia.
Which
These
isn't a
people are
city,
just-
by the way.
It's a
Right.
district.
Well, it
It's a
is, but
federal
it is.
district.
Yeah.
Now these people are just clowns. I mean,
Right.
and of
He
course,
has every authority.
there isn't one opportunity to falsely cry racism by racists that they pass up
Right.
on. And so the mayor of Kansas City is obviously a racist. I mean, that's what his worldview is colored by. Anything that who is he weighing in on? Nobody's talking about Kansas City. Nobody cares about Kansas City. Go back
What'd
to
you
sleep.
say? What'd you say his name is, Todd?
Oh, Kansas City. I said Kansas City mayor is in the headline.
Yeah,
I was
nobody
just
knows
reading the
this
headline.
guy, right? Nobody knows
Right.
this guy.
I
So
was
all of a
just reading
sudden
the
he's trying to
headline
get a
'cause it didn't put
name
his
out
name.
there.
It said Kansas City mayor, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. Because if you
Yeah.
said the name, I wouldn't know.
So here's a nobody trying to be somebody and get his name on the map. That's all.
Yeah, he's another Jasmine Crockett, another yapping
Right.
dog. He got nothing to say and just runs her mouth.
And whenever President Trump, a couple of months ago, sent troops into L.A., he did so under the proper authority, with the National Guard and things of that nature. And the U.S. troops that went up from down in San Diego protected federal buildings, which was under the jurisdiction of the federal government. They have every authority to do that.
Yeah.
They didn't go out and do law enforcement or anything like that. They didn't go out and police. That was they freed up law enforcement so they could police.
Well, honestly, listen. Trump has the authority to call the National Guard at any time when
Yes.
there's an emergency,
Right.
a state of emergency, a disaster, so on and so forth. But also under Title 10, Section 253, where he may use the military, the militia, or by any other means possible to enforce laws when laws are not being enforced by, authorities where they're supposed to be enforced, including state laws. If you read that title.
Right.
Which is why I made such a big stink about where the heck is the federal government when Portland and Seattle and Chicago and Minneapolis were taken over by rioters and leftists. That's what I said back then. And Trump let us down the first administration. Now he's doing his job.
He allowed himself to be browbeat by the left, because they kept attacking him about, well, he's trying to use the National Guard against citizens out there just peacefully protesting. These people aren't peacefully anything. They're rioting. Yeah, you had your select 10 people that did a speech for 1 hour, and the next 20 hours was nothing but full-blown riots. This is ridiculousness, and the law needs to be followed. We need law and order in this country, and the president has a right to effectuate that.
Right.
Ooh, effectuate.
That's a good word right there. Yeah. So apparently that murder the other day was the 100th homicide this year in DC. 100th homicide in DC.
Sadly, that's an improvement over last year.
Right. Well, then their claims is right. It's going down. Right. Wow.
Okay, it's going down. That's still 100 people murdered, and
No, I
also,
know.
yeah.
But I'm just saying. So the Democrats are right. It's going down.
So how many was the
101
previous year?
last
How many
year.
lives were saved? We never hear about the lives saved.
Yeah.
Well, it's also still higher than it was pre-COVID. They don't mention that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the Democrats have no game plan to lower it at all. I'm just scrolling headlines here, and it's DC, it's Epstein, it's something Trump's doing, and it's Putin, or it's the Intel investigation. It's like every article that's essentially what everybody's writing about today is about those things. It's weird.
Ooh! Did you guys get this one?
Oh, there you go. I knew you were coming with something. Go ahead, John.
Marco Rubio, U.S. will label Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization.
Well, it is. That was
The US
already a
government
terrorist
is in the process of designating the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said in an interview on Tuesday. Yes.
When was that designation
I've been
rescinded?
kind
It's
of bold
always
enough
been.
to say that. Look, there's peaceful Muslims in the globe. We know it.
Sure.
But when you're using religion as a tool like this, it's no longer religion. It's a cult. When you force people to be part of a religion, when you're going to terrorize people to be part of a religion, when you say you're going to take over the whole world with a religion, it's not a religion. It's a cult.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I could agree with you, especially that organization. I'm not necessarily saying the religion is a cult, but
it's being used in a cultish fashion. So, okay, this sector, faction of this religion is being used as a cult.
Right. Yeah, well, sure. Yeah.
Like I said, I kind of open it up with, I understand there's peaceful Muslims in the globe. I'm not knocking them, but the Muslim Brotherhood, these people that are factions that are trying to use religion in a cultish fashion, but trying to lean on saying, well, we're just exercising our religious rights or religious freedoms or so on and so forth. It's not. It's not actually. It's not.
Well, to another topic, if I may.
Yes, absolutely. Please.
So it seems that Democrats have found their way back to Texas.
Some of them. I mean, was it because they couldn't get a paycheck?
I don't know why they went back, but the 30-day period for the emergency session of the legislature has expired, and so that's the excuse that they can come back. So the special session is over. Special session is over.
What's to stop the governor from, doing another special session immediately and then call for them to be rounded up and brought in?
Well, the Republicans promised they wouldn't start another special session on Friday, but some people think they will.
I would. I'd spring it on them, baby, and just be like, whenever everybody's in Texas, know exactly where they're at, arrest them, bring them to Austin. Hey, sorry, you're in session. You're not leaving this room.
Well, I think it's a job
unless you resign your seat.
It sounds like a job for the Texas Rangers, and I'm not talking about the baseball team.
Yeah, they couldn't get that done. But yeah, the law enforcement arm of the governor, basically, right?
Yep.
Yeah, very, very elite. They could send in Walker, probably. He could do like a quick karate kick. They'd be roundhoused into the state house in short order, I think.
Excuse me.
All right. John, what's going on up in New Hampshire?
Well,
tell us about your governor.
Our previous governor apparently is getting railroaded or railed on. So there was an article here in New Hampshire Journal here, if anybody hasn't read it yet, here in Nashua. Nashua Mayor pours cold water on Chinese beverage conspiracies. There never was and never will be a plan to sell Nashua's water company to a Chinese beverage company, Mayor Jim Doncha said Tuesday night. So apparently, people like even Representative Maggie Goodlander and Lily Tang Williams had run for office. She was running for that seat, actually. And are making claims that Nongfu Spring is a Chinese-based beverage company. I think the largest in China, too. They bought some property or water, speculated that they bought water rights here in Nashua. And that was under Chris Sununu. Was supposedly, according to Donchas, Chris Sununu was pushing for that to help build the economy here in New Hampshire. I don't think that makes sense to me. Why would you be encouraging Chinese companies and corporations to come to New Hampshire and invest? Why don't you encourage companies in the U.S. to be doing that? We got a lot of beverage companies and stuff. I mean, Nestle's not necessarily a U.S.-based corporation, but they operate out of Maine as Poland Springs anymore. But, I just don't understand why you would be getting in bed with somebody like Sununu. Why was he getting in bed with China or Chinese companies?
Well, a lot of money involved.
Get their investment money from, I wonder.
Right.
The communist.
A lot of money involved for sure. That's an incentive, right, for a lot of people. Right. And then, of course, to play it off as if they're just advising a corporation or something like that, or making a deal for jobs in our country or whatever, doing it for the greater good of our humanity or something. But never mind the millions I stopped away. I'm not saying that's what happened here. I'm just saying, generically, that's how these people operate. Why would you not get involved with China for a lot of money, right? I mean, that's a lot of people think about it. I'm not selling out my country because this is a lot of money. I can do a lot of good with it. So people tell themselves these things. I'm not saying that's what happened, but an idea.
Yeah, no, this is an issue. We've talked about that. Many conservative talk shows have talked about Biden being in bed with communist China and stuff and being nothing but a communist shill or a Chinese communist shill here in the United States of America, taking their money and pushing their agenda here on us. And you see that with the liberal left. I mean, there is a communist movement going on.
Right.
I mean, Antifa itself started out in the 1930s as a communist movement and running here in the United States of America. You hear, they say, oh, no, it's not associated. It's not the same Antifa. Of course, it's not the exact same Antifa, but does communism not come out of their mouth? Do they not want to push communism, call each other comrade and so
Right.
on and so forth? I mean, look, this is straight out of the playbook. You create chaos, you create violence, you upset the public, and then the public turns to the government to fix it. Hey, well, who started this mess? The government.
Right.
Here again, another disaster created by government actors. And so, this is just an overtaking of the United States of America anymore. It's nonsense. We need to get out. We need to not get in bed with these nations anymore. It's like I said before about Saudi Arabia. Trump's agenda was to take money from Saudi Arabia, but now we're shutting down the Epstein investigation. Speculatively speaking on my part, because I think that may be associated somehow. I'm just piece that together on my own.
Right,
but if we
okay.
were, I would say give them the finger and tell them to keep their $600 billion. We'll make our own way about it. We're the United States of America. We'll persevere one way or another. We don't need to be getting in bed with bad actors in the globe.
Yeah, but again, with $600 billion is I can forget an Epstein list for nearly $1 trillion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the problem. Money, greases all
Yeah.
wheels, doesn't it?
I'm just playing devil's advocate over here.
No,
man.
you're making a good point. That's exactly it. People will sell themselves out for money. I mean, you hear that old saying, he'd sell his own mother on the street for $1. I mean,
Right, yeah. Right.
It's like some people just have no integrity anymore. We've lost our moral standards in this country, and I'm the sort of person I'll walk away from cash. I would rather keep myself intact. I would rather keep my spirit whole. And I don't know why. And I get confused about that, why other people wouldn't. And I think most of us as Americans think that way. I think we want to keep our spirit whole. I think we want to keep ourselves intact. I don't think we want to sell ourselves out. We get confused about it because we naively think we base
Right.
people's standards on our own standards. If we're good people, we inherently think other people are good people when they're not. And so when we look
Right.
at these people in Congress, we always say, oh, well, that's a good guy. He's always smiling, laughing, got a hand to wave, shake
Sure.
your hand, kiss your baby.
You're playing a role. You're playing the role of the good guy or the good
Yeah,
gal, right?
and so
Yeah.
they just assume they're a good guy. They never think they could do anything nefarious. I mean,
They
come on,
took a
crack the
photo
best
with me. They
jokes.
shook my hand. They gave me a photo of them and signed it. How narcissistic are
Right.
people? But people do that.
So yeah, we just assume people are good people because we're good people, and you can't do that anymore. You got to be. I always say it. I've said it since the beginning. I've been active. Is always question authority. It doesn't matter who.
Sure.
If Donald Trump's in charge right now. He's got a lot of influence. He's got a lot of power. He's got a lot of pull. You should still question him. You still should question his motives. You should still question his actions and where he's going with things.
Yep.
You never know. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think the world of the guy. I think he's a good guy, but he's still in an authoritative position. Ben Franklin said it himself. Power corrupts, right? He says even
Right.
himself, Ben Franklin referred to himself in the first person. Even if I'm your president, I could be corrupted and work against you. That's
Right.
how bad it is, man. Founders even realize they're fallible. They're corruptible.
And even if, let's say, for example, you're not doing it for greed or monetary, gain or something like that. Let's just say, for example, you get yourself in a situation where, you feel like your back's against the wall. You've got to make some sort of deal that you normally never make. Then to me, you've corrupted yourself because you've allowed yourself to be put in that situation. You see what I'm saying? Instead of leaning on other people around you to assist you in those moments.
Yeah, somebody asked, what is the focus on Epstein files? Listen, there's a lot to be brought out of the for investigative purposes. Yeah, Epstein's dead. We all know he's dead. Well, at least we think he is, but we're 100% sure he's dead. Okay, we know he's dead. But
Yeah.
there's a lot to dig into him for investigations. Like Pam Bondi made the statement about, well, the pervert just downloaded online porn. What do you mean? He just got child porn. Yeah, whose porn? What porn? Where did that porn come from? I mean, was he just online, these dark websites and being a freak? Or were these people that he was setting up I mean, he was supposed to be an agent, right? Selling information to maybe the Saudis, or some people speculate he was selling it to even Israel. So they would have leverage over our politicians. So what porn did he download? And chances are it's from his own private cameras. We have a lot to investigate here.
Right.
So to blow it off and say there's nothing here to find is ridiculous. And you'd be naive to believe that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. To say that, there was, I mean, how many hard drives that they talk about they had of data on this guy, videos and, surveillance videos. And now all of a sudden there's nothing there. I'm not saying you have to release the videos of people having sex or sick stuff like that. Okay. But, if it was going on, you can clearly identify the people involved. You need to put them in cuffs, get them in a cell, get them in a courthouse quick.
You can interrogate these people, right? You knew they were at the island. What did you see? What did you witness? Who was there with you? I mean, people see things, and if they're next on the chopping block, what do? They sing like canaries every time.
Right. If a person was on the island and the surveillance showed they were on there, nobody else was with them, they didn't engage in anything illegal, you can leave them off. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But if they've engaged in some sicko activity, you need to go after them, put them in cuffs quick. None of this nonsense where you allow it to be hidden away and evidence to be destroyed or hidden. No, forget that. You need to go after them. If Clintons are involved, go after them.
So Pablo, I did hear that from Chris. He thinks there's not a whole lot there in the Epstein files. I know. Do you want to weigh in, Chris? You look like you had thoughts, so you may as well weigh in on it.
I'm just letting you guys run that story through. It's look, I don't get the obsession with Epstein. That's up to law enforcement. If people are still being harmed, I'd get it. And you've got to intervene and stop it. So I don't understand. Also, yet again, where was this emphasis, not directed at either of you, but where is this emphasis concerned for 4 years? Nobody gave a crap. Only when this became a political tool to attack Trump with. No, there was none of this uproar to Biden about releasing these files. Nobody talked about, well, Biden maybe he's in the files. Biden's cover up. Biden is, we're too busy watching him stumble upstairs every day, getting on Air Force One. No, there was none of this umbrage. For 4 years, this information could have been released. And again, a fourth federal judge has refused to unseal grand jury testimony. The Trump administration asked for the grand jury testimony to be released. They gave what they felt was compelling reason of public interest, and the judges said no. So I don't understand the obsession with this. I appreciate it, but I have a bigger obsession with what's going on in D.C. I don't understand why they're so obsessed with this. Again, if someone is being hurt, if there's someone in jeopardy now, I get it. But the culprits are dead or in prison, and there's no one else. The people who may have committed crimes, then it's up to the Justice Department. If federal crimes were committed, it's up to the jurisdictions where the crimes occurred to do it if it's local crimes, and those people should be pursuing it. But I mean, I'm more concerned about the arrest and incarceration and conviction of Joe Biden, of his chief of staff, the White House, of James Comey, and of all the people who censored Americans. I mean, look, this is a bad thing. This hurts some people, and it's terrible. Yeah. But the abuse of the Constitution hurt the nation and hurt our reputation and irreparably harmed the society. The local sheriffs who went to Alabama drive-in movie theaters and threatened to arrest people for going to a church service, despite the fact they were sitting in their car with the windows up, wearing masks, 2 car lengths apart, and the priest wasn't even there, violating the First Amendment of the Constitution. The federal government colluding with Twitter and with other social media sites to shut down speech that they didn't like, a clear violation of the First Amendment, using tech companies as actors, as agents of the government to violate and go around the First Amendment. Not a single person has been indicted. Not a single person has been charged with a crime. Not a single person has been prosecuted. These are serious crimes. I'm not diminishing what happened with Epstein. What I'm saying is I don't get the obsession. How about an obsession on that? Because people, it's okay. What they let Japanese Americans be put in concentration camps. They let Andrew Jackson. The reason why the Democrats use a donkey and ass as their symbol? Because people called Andrew Jackson Jackass Jackson. And he owned it. He said, yeah, okay, call me Jackass. It became a symbol of the Democratic Party. And ass, what an appropriate symbol. These people frog marched 100,000 Native Americans so they could steal their land. How about this is things we should be upset about. Sorry.
I don't have seen any less of a thing in all of this, because you're right. These are valid points.
It's true.
We need to have investigation on the Russia hoax.
That's true.
That's just as important. We need to have investigation on collusion to silence us and violate our freedoms and rights.
100%. But I need to jump in here real quick and take up for the donkeys out there. They do not need to be denigrated and be anywhere related to the Democrats. They are hardworking animals. Let me tell you, they are disgraced.
If you can keep a carrot in front of them, keep them moving. Yes,
those jackasses are all right in my book. The ones on the farm,
I don't agree it being just as important, John. I don't. Look, these are crimes. They happen every day. And there needs to be attention focused on the crimes of the federal government. While the federal government gets away, this distraction of Epstein. If people are concerned that the Justice Department is not doing its job, then someone needs to articulate beyond, well, why aren't we knowing what's the cover? I want an articulation of what the Justice Department should be doing. Is there a federal crime that they're not prosecuting or pursuing or investigating? That's my question here. Nobody can articulate that. Now, I'm not saying there isn't. I'm just saying this is all just smoke and mirrors. How many people actually care about the victims? Very few. It's just political fodder. And I'm not accusing my co-host of using that because I appreciate it. But what I'm saying is that I'm giving tangible, real violations of the Constitution, our most basic law, by government officials. That is far more important than the horrible things that happen to underage minors. I'm sorry, that's just the truth.
When we talk about politicians being engaged in Epstein, when we talk about the ability for people to use this as leverage,
but John, what
we have to investigate that.
It's been investigated.
That. When has it been investigated?
For the past 5 years.
Because by the Biden administration, you were counting on the Biden administration.
Trump was in office when this thing started.
Yes, and it was turned over to Biden. It was in his hands, which somebody here has expressed that Biden was more interested in ice cream than investigating Epstein. Come on, it's true. But Biden didn't care. But when Trump deflected the way he did and said there's nothing there, and Bondi backed him up and said we're not investigating. There's we've been told by Trump through the campaign, somebody pointed that out earlier, that there was something there and he was going after it. This is human trafficking, man, and it hits hard and cold to the American people. They want results and they want it to come to an end somehow. And we saw this as a pathway. That's why it was important. But it's no less important. It was used during the
campaign, though. It was used to basically smoke and mirrors, I think, as a political tool, as a political football, if you will. I think it was.
So, guys, I don't mean to throw water on this whole thing, but what I want to say is that if people believe campaign rhetoric will be the actions of administration when they come in, you're being a bit naive. I remember George W. Bush campaigning as compassionate conservative. Not George Herbert Walker Bush, but George Walker Bush. Campaigning as a compassionate conservative, as a small government, as a America first, America inward. We've spent too much time going to Rwanda and to Bosnia and all these places under Clinton and Somalia. We need to be inward facing. And that was his campaign. That's what he ran on. And then what happened? He came up with Every Child Left Behind Act, which put government intrusion into local education and ruined education. He came up with agreements with Kennedy to expand the federal government instead of reducing it. He came up with tariffs on steel. He said he was a free trader. He came up with tariffs on Canadian soft timber imports, none of which changed the dynamics in the marketplace. So these politicians make promises. Barack Obama says hope and change. There was no hope and change. The only thing he said that was true was he would fundamentally change America, and he did. He put us on a trajectory of destruction and civil discord, which is a hell of an accomplishment by the treasonous clown.
But the point is, he wasn't talking about you and me.
Well, guys, the thing is, I'm saying is that if people thought that everything that Trump said on the campaign trail was true, I mean, look.
I get what you're saying.
When he came down the stairs, they're all criminals, Obviously, he wasn't saying all the illegal aliens who invade this country are criminals. They are when they invade the country. But his point, yes. But the point is that this is campaign hyperbole.
Sure.
Not everything in the campaign. Now, look, the thing about Trump is, honestly, I guess I could see why people are upset because promises made, promises kept. Trump has followed through on virtually everything he promised his campaign, which is unbelievable. It's almost never been a president in our living memory who's done that, who said, I'm going to do this and does it. Trump has done it. This is the one thing he didn't do. Well, maybe he shouldn't have harped on this. I really don't think people voted for Trump to get the Epstein files open. I think they voted on Trump because we're embarrassed by the national disgrace that Joe Biden was and the socialist agenda.
No, you're right. I mean, but there were a lot of Americans that put a lot of stake in the Epstein files. There really were. I've seen it in social media, and they're highly disappointed because now it's just kind of being skirted along. But you got valid points in many regards. There are a lot of other things that are equally as important.
Right.
Maybe even more so in some cases, but human trafficking is a hard thing to actually turn a blind eye to.
Right. Charles in our comment, he's on fire tonight, but he's asking about the insurrection, the January 6th insurrection.
Yeah, that's a
Are
whole
they ever
other
going to
thing.
do anything there?
And the fake January 6th commission. Okay,
Right.
look, saying that there's an obsession with the Epstein files isn't dismissing human trafficking. I'm on record as one of the people that's been talking about this issue for a long time, sex trafficking of people. I mean, this is something that affects, I've told the story of the little girl, the 11-year-old girl who was kidnapped in broad daylight in an upscale neighborhood outside of Phoenix and then trafficked and pimped for a week. And the only reason they found her is because one of the places they took her to pimp her out, they went there and there was a DEA surveillance operation going on because they were looking for drug dealers. And they found this girl that was brought there where these guys were abusing her. And that's the only reason she was returned and didn't wind up in a ditch or, sent to some third world country.
Right.
This is a very real situation. And people think that it just happens to Africans or it just happens to Thais or to Filipinos. It happens to girls in your neighborhood, black, white, all over the country. It happens. And it's something I've talked about for years. So I don't think that questioning the obsession with Epstein diminishes a commitment or concern about human trafficking. I've been talking about this issue for many, many years. And in fact, I contributed to the human trafficking reports at the embassies I worked in about trying to combat this sort of thing. The problem with human trafficking is that these are well-connected, deeply influential, very powerful, very wealthy, and very entrenched syndicates, criminal syndicates that operate around the world and sell women, especially women, but boys and girls also into sexual slavery. That's not the only form of human trafficking, but that is the most promiscuous and one of the most devastating.
Yeah, domestic servitude is a big problem as well.
That's also forced labor in India. You put little minor kids breaking ships apart because it's too dangerous for people to get inside the places and tear them apart. Look, I don't.
North Koreans in Russia.
You
didn't hear about this?
No, go ahead.
Well, no.
Go ahead.
North Korea sent their workers to Russia to do work in Russia. Mostly I think lumber and construction work. And the North Korean workers are complaining they're being forced to work, and I guess they're being overworked
they are.
over there. So they've actually come out and made statements against it, saying, "Hey, listen, this is abuse."
Yeah, and immediately they were killed the next day, probably.
Probably.
or disappeared, right?
They were sent to the Ukraine.
Our spokesperson no longer speaks for us. We love this work, said North Korea's new spokesperson.
They were sent to the Ukrainian front.
Right. Yeah, Ukrainian, right. Yeah, run that way. Right, yeah.
No, I mean, this is, look, for some folks, I mean, this is like, it's like Hogan's Heroes, they're always threatening to send it to the Russian front. Well, they're threatening some people to the Russian front in the 21st century.
Yeah, bring the caller in, John.
Oh, all right. Sure thing. You there, caller? Remember, this is a live terrestrial radio station. It's not just internet. So we got to be mindful about how we say things, please.
Fair enough. Well, hello, gentlemen. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you? What's your name? Where are you calling from, sir?
My name is Brad. I'm calling from Detroit.
Oh, all right, Detroit. All right, Rock City, baby. What's your thoughts or questions?
So I have a top. First of all, I would say, would you guys consider yourselves more right-leaning on the political scale?
Yeah, right. Yeah, common sense conservatives. It's in the name. Yeah, we're more to the right. We're not hard line right, by the way.
I have a topic that I don't really get. I haven't been seeing this talked about very often. I want to hear your guys' opinion on it. Do you believe that Trump is using propaganda in its most basic sense? Like, do you think that propaganda A is being used and B is okay to be used?
What specifically are you talking about? Just like press briefings that or that are telling a narrative that the administration is trying to convey?
I see a lot about how the Democrat agenda is somehow more of a threat than the things that are happening right now. And I guess maybe I can put this better.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't exactly prepare.
That's all right. Yeah, you're doing good. Yeah, as long as we try not to curse on the show. We forget it ourselves sometimes, by the way. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I? Oh, my bad.
No. I'm just saying you're doing a good job.
Sometimes I can't even tell. No, I guess my thing is, do you guys follow the White House Instagram account, or do you guys check it regularly?
I see it occasionally. I don't sit there and scroll on it every day, but occasionally, if something pops up whenever I'm on there, I'll look at it.
Yeah, fair enough. I saw a post the other day, and I feel that, well, okay, I'm not I'm pretty politically active, I would say. I'm definitely more left-leaning at this point in my life. But I do agree that I will agree with the majority of conservatives' points that the left has a pretty big agenda. They like pushing things and not really explaining why, but if you look at it, you can go, I know why. You know what I mean? And I feel that I haven't seen a lot of conservative commentators talk about the fact that right now the White House, or at the very least whoever's running the media accounts, is doing a very similar thing, where it's kind of, so like this post that I saw, right? It's about the stuff that's going on in DC right now. It was a Truth Social post written hypothetically by Donald Trump saying, quote, Washington, D.C. will be liberated today. Crime, savagery, filth, and scum will disappear. I will make our capital great again. And I saw that and I went, obviously he's being hyperbolic. But
right, yeah, I was gonna say
that was the word. To be hyperbolic. And I guess I want to ask you guys if you guys say you don't really follow, you're not going to scroll through the Instagram. I'm not going to blame you guys. I don't either. It just popped up. But I'm saying the people that are willing to scroll through this are usually young and impressionable with usually, I'd say the younger, side of Americans don't really pay attention to everything. They just see headlines and they form opinions based on that. Do you think that it's a good thing for the official White House account to be posting statements like that? Or do you think that it's a bit much? That's my question, I guess.
That's a fair question. I appreciate the question. So let me address it. No, I don't think it's appropriate for official government organs to be posting comments like that. But Truth Social account, that's Donald Trump's account. I don't know that's appropriate for him to be doing either. And I agree with you that it's hyperbolic and unnecessary. There's no need to use that language. All that has to be done is the truth. But the problem is that the political environment is so polluted that both sides feel the need to be over the top. And it doesn't justify it. But the bottom line here is that DC crime is out of control. As we talked about earlier in the program, I don't know if you were listening the first hour, I go to DC quite frequently. I'm not very far from there. And I would say 25 to 40% of the time, half the time, I got to be careful to get out of the way of law enforcement rushing to a crime scene. It's really, really problematic. And in my book, you simply have to tell the truth. It's like I do a lot of coverage of South Africa, and people are trying to cover up what's happening there, and other people exaggerate and make claims. I heard some nonsense say someone claimed there were 60 murders a day. Well, that's just ludicrous, and that doesn't help anything. Just tell the truth and tell it. And so I appreciate where you're coming. It sounds like you, caller, want to just hear the facts and the truth and not the hyperbole. And I would agree.
I would agree. Yeah, and you were spot on, caller, for sure. And I agree with the Colonel's words there as well. Yeah, a lot of hyperbole, a lot of words that probably shouldn't be used, especially for a sitting president. I'll agree with you.
Now, I will add one thing here. This is a commentary show, and I do like to use colorful language, not profanity, but colorful language to describe people on the opposite side of the political aisle. But that's allowed. This is a commentary show, not official government organ.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's where my main issue with this comes from. I feel that, because I would say that I was definitely I would say I was incredibly right-leaning up until, and I'm still young. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna pretend like I'm formed. I'm some wise guy just because I'm in my mid-20s. But where I'm at with it is that it's just so much hyperbole. It's so much constant, and I'm not gonna call it lying because obviously politicians are gonna do this from any side. I'm not gonna expect them to do anything less. It's how our political system runs. But I think that my biggest issue is that for his campaign to be, his campaign and now current presidency, the administration, to be constantly trying to have this moral high ground of like, we tell the truth. They're trying to keep it from you. They're the ones that are trying to pull the wool over your eyes. But we're the ones that are going to tell it how it is and say the facts and tell you exactly what's going on. To be using that type of language. I mean, the greatest example of this was during the debate, that offhand comment that Trump threw out about the Haitians eating cats and dogs. Obviously a hyperbolic statement. Obviously not much behind it. He knew that when he said it, but because his campaign is about, we're saying the hard-hidden facts, we're giving you the truths, the uncomfortable truths, they had to double down on it. And J.D. Vance trying to double down on it and then realizing that the hole was, they dug the hole a little too far and then immediately switching up on that stance and just pretending like it didn't happen. That kind of hypocrisy is really putting me off of the second Trump administration. And I honestly, fellas, and I respect anyone's opinion, that's what makes America so great, is the ability for us to even have this conversation. But I can't take it seriously. And I really don't understand how hearing this type of language constantly from the press conferences and from Trump's random like offhand comments he'll make towards reporters or for reporters for, you know, like for the 30-second little time that he'll get at the media, the White House or whatever, just hearing the things that he says, the things that he was saying when Musk was there and about like, you know, gassing up Elon Musk is this huge deal and that he's going to really help everything. He's going to bring down corruption just for them to not be very friends. Now they're not very friendly and he won't talk about it anymore.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like it makes me not very,
I get what you're
it doesn't
saying.
make me very
It's a lot of political theater.
or
for
have
sure.
much trust in it.
Is it Brad? I think it's Brad as a caller. Is that correct?
Brad, yes.
Brad.
Yes, Brad. Brad, listen, I appreciate where you're coming from, and I certainly don't disagree with it. But the problem here, of course, is that this comes from all sides all the time. To be angry at one side or to change your political views because you're disappointed, I think is holding one side to a higher standard than the other. And, you know, I can point out instances of both sides where they do this. I think the key thing here is for people to be fully informed about things. For instance, when Trump talks about Doge coming in and cutting $2 trillion. I mean, that's just ludicrous. I never believed that for a second. I said so on this program. It's impossible. Right. Only 18% of the federal budget is under the discretion of the executive branch to actually decide where the money goes. So 82%
you said that in the first 100 days you talked about that.
Exactly. Before he even came in office, I said 82% of this is nothing they can control unless the laws are changed for Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. And if those laws are changed, then we can. But that's the thing that no one wants to talk. That's the fifth rail of politics. So to me, hearing that sort of thing was nonsense. I never believed Doge was going to do that. I said at best they might be able to find 100 or 200, maybe $300 billion of money that's being spent fruitlessly, but that's going to be about it. And what did they come in? Around 200 billion. And I'm not trying to crow and say I was correct. My point is that I tempered my expectations and I drowned out the hyperbole. And the fight between him and Musk was just ludicrous. And that's right. I tuned that out too. That's distraction. And I guess I appreciate it would be nice if politicians could just tell the truth. But politicians who tell the truth, like when I ran for office, get railroaded and get slammed by the dirty politics of the other side. And so I understand why they're doing the hyperbole, but it doesn't excuse it.
I guess and I totally understand where you're coming from on that. I actually really appreciate you saying that. I guess my thing is that in your guys' opinion, I seriously want an answer to this. Do you think that the moral grandstanding that the Republican Party is taking right now about these things, about like, you know, I mean, a lot of discourse I see from conservative areas online is about the agendas. They're pushing this in our schools. They're pushing this and whatever, you know what I mean? It's all very hyperbolic language. And I guess my question to you guys about that is, do you think that because I agree that it happens from both sides, but if one side is going to specifically, you know, parade around saying that they are not doing it, or that they are at the very least better at telling the truth, only to do the exact same thing, regardless of if it's just the American, you know, it's part of the American political system or it's precedent. Do you think that they should give up this angle? Because the Epstein files debacle that we're going through right now is actually, I think, is a great example of them using this sort of language and using this whole, we tell the truth, we always tell the truth, or we at least try to, whatever. We're better than the other guys, let's just say that. I think it's kind of imploding on them because they went a little too hard in the paint with it. I think they went a little too crazy in the beginning, and now they're realizing that they, quote unquote, have to follow up on the promise, and they can't.
Yeah, you said that, and that's our argument about the whole thing.
I wouldn't have expected them to in the first place, but they told me that they would.
Well,
this is our whole argument about.
I have an issue with that.
I think Brad is stepped right on an issue that plays out very well. I think, Brad, you've articulated very well the problem. This was played up during the campaign. At least people that wanted to hear this heard this, and that's what they focused on. I ignored it. I listened to Trump when he said he was going to bring tariffs, and I bought my laptop on November 8th.
Yes, you did.
Before the price of microprocessors went up.
Wisely
so because I knew that was coming, but I didn't pay attention to this Epstein thing. But I think, Brad, you're spot on that this was played up. But you know, Bill Engvall said something, Brad. I know you're a young guy, but maybe you know who Bill Engvall is. You know, stupid people should wear signs. And I'm saying, you know, what my point here is that people out of power think they can do certain things when they come in power. They get in power and they find out that they're maybe not able to do that, or maybe what they expected was there wasn't there. And they should have just been honest with people. And they should not have pushed this. So I agree with you. But I will come back to your one point, Brad, and push back about one thing. And that's when you talk about the hyperbole about people being proven wrong. We could just go to the issue right now about redistricting. Suddenly, Americans have discovered the term gerrymandering, something I learned in civics course decades ago. You know, the Democrats running off to Illinois to complain about Texas redistricting in the middle of a decade after the census and saying it's unjust. When you look at the facts and you look at where they went, it's just comical to say the least. They went to a state in which, it's almost even. It's 54 to 40 or 56 to 42, something like that, voter turnout for Republican Democrat. And the Democrats greatly outweigh the Republicans because the way they're redistricting and gerrymandering. Maryland used to have a balance with 4 and 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans. The percentage of people voting Democrat and Republican hasn't changed. But what has changed is they redistrict and there's only one Republican. The state of Pennsylvania, during the election a few years ago, overturned the redistricting that had taken place several years prior, 9 months before an election, after candidates had already run in a district they were no longer a candidate in because the boundaries were changed, wasting their time and money and resources. And as a consequence, Democrats now have a balanced representation. The Pennsylvania delegation goes to Washington. That one state changing swung the House from Republican to Democrat in one election. So my point here is that the hypocrisy is all over. The problem is you've just got to wade through the nonsense. And Brad, it sounds like you're a thoughtful person. You're paying attention. My recommendation is wherever you find yourself you believe you're in the political spectrum, left, right, or center, just drown out the nonsense and focus on the real issues and hold them to a standard. That's what you're trying to do. You expect them to tell the truth, but I expect both sides to tell the truth. And both of them are prone to hyperbole. And I wish they wouldn't do it, but it's a fact of politics. It's always been the case. I mean, we had a senator nearly beaten to death on the floor of the Senate in 1860. Yeah. This is politics.
Brad, any final thoughts real quick before we let you go?
No, actually, I really appreciate it. If I could say one last thing.
Yeah, go ahead and call in anytime, by the way.
Okay, yeah.
Unless you Baba Booey is here.
I appreciate it. Do you think that there's any amount of hyperbole that would cause you to kind of, I don't know, for lack of a better, just to be blunt, to lose support? Do you think that if this Epstein file thing doesn't work out or something else comes up and they have to cover it up pretty quickly, they do it pretty messily, do you think that would, obviously it depends on the case, but do you think that there's anything that could happen that would make you not necessarily be able to wade through the nonsense? For you to have to look up at it and go, okay, this is...
Oh, I can imagine that for sure. I can imagine that for sure. And on a regular, we call out the Trump administration on this show quite regular whenever we think that we disagree with them.
Well, I can give you an instance here very clearly. During the Bush administration, he campaigned. I voted for him as a common sense conservative. That's, he said that he was going to keep government small. He was going to focus on America, and he was going to do all these different things. And the moment he started doing things completely opposite, I'm like, well, wait a second. Unfortunately, I was in the political realm. I was a serving military officer, so I couldn't speak out publicly, but I spoke privately about it and vociferously. And I've talked about it and I've mentioned it many times since then. It's when our politicians promise one thing and deliver something else. Trump in this first administration promised to build a wall, never got the wall built. I called that out repeatedly. He also allowed insurrection to take place in Washington. In Seattle, they created CHAZ, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, in which they abrogated the authority of the federal government. That's an insurrection, and Trump did nothing to stop it. People were murdered there. They segregated their little society where only black people could go and only white people go. It's ludicrous. That was an actual insurrection in Seattle, and Trump did nothing about it. I castigated him on this program when we were on, I think we were on Facebook then.
Right. Yeah, just on Facebook, I think. That was the first few shows, yeah.
Yeah, that was mess. Yeah, no, I mean, fair enough, guys. Well,
Brad,
time.
Yeah, we appreciate you calling, and you call in anytime. We love having people call in, especially thoughtful folks like yourself, sir.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for your time, gentlemen. Have a good day.
Take care, brother. Oh, great call right there. We love it when people call in and are thoughtful, that have their own ideas of how things are, and it seems to be a little on the left, but that's perfectly fine. He wants to deal in facts and reality, which keeps anybody from being too far left or too far right. Whenever you deal with facts and reality, keeps you right in that humble zone, I think.
See, John, I warned you about this in the Motor City. People are listening, man. You got to be careful what you say.
Wait a minute, what did I say about Detroit?
Right. Rock City, baby. That's what I call it.
I don't think he said anything bad about Detroit.
I
might have at one time or another.
I didn't even call it. I want to go and watch a Tigers game at some point.
Never been to a Tigers game. Well, I've been to Tigers game at Camden Yards, but never been to a Tigers game in Detroit. I have been to old Comiskey Park. I was there before they destroyed it.
Wow! Did you go for Disco Inferno when they burned the records?
No. I went, and they had obstructive views of those darn columns that were blocking your view.
That was a horrible park, but it was so old. It was cool.
It's also a pretty dangerous neighborhood. I drove to Comiskey Park.
Yeah, I've seen it. I saw it off in the distance before, but I've never been to it. I've been to the new park and been a couple games there, but that's about it. So yeah, good times though I've had there. But but as soon as the game's over, I get right on the train and get out. I mean, that's not my neighborhood.
But Brad raises a very interesting question, and I think it's a fair one as we get away from hyperbole for a second here. The problem, and I didn't want to go into this because Brad, give Brad a chance to get his questions out there. They're very good questions. But I mean, I've talked about this before. Nancy Pelosi abusing her position as Speaker of the House of Representatives, lying about the Trump administration during his first administration, falsely claiming that he banned 350 million people of color from coming to America. A total fabrication, a total lie, and the press ran with it. They just ran with it. It's like the whole situation now where the press is running around about Trump in South Africa. Trump pushing a genocide narrative in South Africa. It's Human Rights Report genocide. There's no mention of genocide in the Human Rights Report, but the media is still saying it. Trump, when he was at the Oval Office in May and Ramaphosa visited and the issue came up, it was a planted question. They tried to embarrass Trump. And the South African reporter said, Mr. President, do you still believe that there's a white genocide in South Africa? And Trump's response was, I'm not convinced of that. I mean, how much clearer could that be? And what does it come out in the press? Trump lectures Ramaphosa about a fake white genocide. It's still going on. See, look, it doesn't matter. Even if the politicians are honest, the media will use hyperbole to get clicks, to get attention. And and that's one of the reasons why I have so many viewers, because I call out that bogus nonsense. It's if you're going to pretend you're a news organization, but then put opinion into a news article, you're not a news organization. You're fake news. You're fraudulent. That's yellow journalism. Trump is much more famous, and much more has greater reach than I'll ever have. But he started calling it fake news. And when he said that, I said, no, it's not fake news. It's yellow journalism. That's a phrase we coined in Spanish-American War, leading us into a brief and sad, pathetic imperial period for this country in which we tried to become an empire. And thankfully, we stepped away from that, courtesy of the First World War. But no, look, it's yellow journalism. And if the politicians tell the truth, they just get inundated and swamped. And frankly, to go back to Brad's point, I assume Brad's still listening. I think that's one of the reasons why politicians are hyperbolic when they say things over the top, because it's the only way to get above the din of what things are being reported.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. You got to have that headline and that first lead-in paragraph's got to grab that reader. And then if you read a little bit further down toward the bottom, usually it's the facts of, what we said in the first paragraph and in the headline wasn't quite true, but you've read this far. Guess what? The advertising dollars was worth it. You know what I'm saying? We got your clicks. We got your eyeballs.
In the Pennsylvania legislature race last year, which I wasted my time and my own money.
It's all right.
No, it's not all right. I could use that money today, but no. But in that race that I ran, we have 5 of us running the Republican primary, and one of our opponents was, he was a chameleon. We go to one place, suddenly he's a devout Christian. Maybe he is, but that's not what he brings up the next place. He tailored his message. If it was true, okay, but much of what he said was nonsense. For instance, I was striking a chord because people respect veterans around here immensely, and my advertisements talked about being a leader, a soldier, an educator. And suddenly his ads started mimicking mine after I started gaining traction. And he served in basic training and then was put out before he finished basic training in the Air Force. And suddenly he started claiming he was a veteran, and he only had one photograph of him in basic training. And suddenly that became a big part of his campaign about and he started wearing an Air Force cap, 2/3 away. None of that was ever present. That wasn't part of his campaign. That wasn't who he was at the beginning. And the point is that this guy kept changing for every audience. And I just can't do that. I can't be dishonest. I mean, look, I'm a very complicated person, very complex person with lots of different interests and lots of different things I've done in life. And not everything comes up at the beginning, but it's all there. There's a track record. Right. This guy, there's no track record. And he was just playing to the crowd. That's what politicians do. And I think maybe that's where Brad was going with this too, is playing to the crowd. It's very off-putting if you really care. And I think maybe that's where Brad was coming from. I don't really speak for you, Brad, but I hope I got that right.
So somebody wants to know if your opponent was related to Kamala Harris. So I'm assuming they mean that deep Southern accent she develops in Georgia while getting a Midwestern accent out there.
Look, they're all guilty of this. I mean, look, now to be fair, I'll be straight up about this. one of the problems or challenges I had in life, I've been very good at adapting as I got older, is that because I moved so much as a kid and I was always the outsider, I went to so many different elementary schools and junior high schools, and we're talking 30 plus, living in 30 some states, moving all the time. I was always the new kid, the young kid, the skinny kid, the outcast. I had to adapt, and I just naturally found the ability to become a chameleon and adapt the same mannerisms and accents without even realizing it. So I have to be very careful, because I hang around people with a certain accent, I'll like slide right into that. You know,
Right,
within
the PA
15 minutes.
accent
But
you
yours
just had-
isn't
you just had right
intentional. Yours isn't intentional. You were a kid trying to fit in, and
Right, but as an adult, I have to be careful, because people think you're mocking them if you're not careful. And I realized this a long time ago. So, like when I go to Maryland and I hang out with my aunts and uncles, there aren't many of them left, by the way, but there used to be 12 of them.
over Maryland, right? You
Yeah,
get that
and
little-
Maryland, Baltimore.
Yeah.
Within 15 or 20 minutes, I sound like I'm from there.
Right.
Even though I'm not from there. I was born there, I lived there, but and it's the same thing. I go other places. And so, like when I talk to South Africans, I use the vernacular that South Africans use. And unfortunately, they don't think I'm mocking them, but I don't say a traffic light. They call it a robot. Yeah, they call a traffic light a robot, guys. I don't know where that came from. But
I like that accent better, though. It's kind of cool.
When I'm in the UK, I don't say in the hospital. That's what we say in American English, but they say in hospital. They drop the article, and I talk about roundabouts and this, anyway. So I use the vernacular. My point is that it's very easy for me to do that, so I have to be careful. But these politicians are so fake. Hillary Clinton suddenly got this Southern drawl, and the same with Barack Obama. You know, he's talking to his people. Oh, please, these people are so fake. They're
Right.
so fake. But I'm not fake. That's actually who I am. I used to live in the hood. I used to live in housing projects, and use that vernacular and spoke that way. So for me, actually having this Midwest accent, in some ways, it's not intentional. It's who I am. But for some people, they might think it's a front. Yeah, I grew up with you. That's not how you used to talk. Anyway,
That's fun.
But sales and stuff, that's what they do. They learn when people are trying to sell something to somebody, they're going to try to pick up some of their mannerisms and imitate those mannerisms, because when people see that, they start to develop a trust for you.
Right.
They don't get offended as much as they start liking people because they identify with them.
Right.
So don't trust your local salesman, guys. You got to pay attention.
Right. Yeah, it's like you definitely are not from here, salesman, but he has the accent. He got it down. He's got the mannerisms. Yeah, I've already got 3 vacuum cleaners. You're not going to give me a 4th time, buddy.
And there he is hauling his 5th one back into the house.
Right. He's like, oh, almost had you.
That's got to be a tough life. Can you imagine being a door-to-door salesman and having to survive off of commissions? You have to make
have
a
a
sale
door
or you go
slammed in
hungry.
your face repetitively. Yeah, that's
You have to be entertaining to be able to make a living that way. And just
I mean, look,
so amiable.
I ran for political office and I knocked on at least 3,000 doors. Fortunately, maybe that's why my hip is messed up now, because I knocked at 3,000 doors. It's not a pleasant experience. It's not a fun thing to knock on someone's door to disturb their day. I mean, that's just not my nature.
Sure.
But you do it because you have to. And then, most people are pretty cool, but you get those people who are just terrible.
You get some people that want to just go off on you because it's like you're in my driveway or you're on my porch, you're running for office. Whether you're in office or not is besides the point. I get an opportunity to go off on somebody, and some people just want to let loose on you, and it's like, hey, I'm not the guy in office. I'm trying to replace him. How about you let him know that or her know that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. It's just, look, so I've had my taste of politics, and I didn't like it. And unless, some political party comes in with a lot of backing and something, I don't think I'll ever run again, because it was too off-putting. I understand now why people with good morals and good character so seldom run for political office, because it's very distasteful.
Well, this is what Nixon said in 62. Then what happened to him in 68? He became president. So be careful with that statement.
I seriously doubt that in 2032 I'll become president.
No, I'm saying you may actually be in some office. You never know. I mean, it could be local, state senate, whatever. You don't say never here.
I've heard that.
I'm just saying.
I've actually heard people say, listen, before I'd run for an office again, even a state office, I want to have $100,000 in the coffers. That sounds like a huge amount of money, but when you're running, it takes a lot of money to win, even local politics.
Yeah. I think we might be able to raise that here.
Well, folks, I mean, for the state legislature in a reliably conservative, and that's why it happened, because if you win the primary, you're going to win the general election in this district
Right.
because it's 2/3 Republican. If you're running as Republican, there's no chance. I mean, you could probably walk down the street and shoot people and still get elected. I mean, that's that kind of thing. But
Second Amendment.
yeah, so he's exercised Second Amendment rights. Yeah, no, but seriously. So we had one candidate who spent about $100,000. Another candidate spent at least $60,000 or $80,000. I spent $22,000. Another person spent $8,000. Oh, that's the end of the show.
All right, folks, that's it. We'll see you next week, 7 to 9 Eastern, right here on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. Take care. God bless. See you then.